we could really use some more like neighborhood focused places that people just come to be like welcome and feel like it's part of their home, you know, like an extension of themselves, right? I feel like I grew up watching Good Eats religiously. Like that was my like bread and butter. We were homeschooled too, so it's perfect because I could like spend my lunch break watching the Food Network. Like that was the best thing. So I feel like so much of my childhood was spent, you know, Good Eats or like what's Cake Boss, like Ace of Cakes. Like I loved all of them. I think the science of Good Eats is what I really fell in love with, where it was just fun to learn about like the art of baking, but also like the science behind cooking. Great. I was 15 years old and I got a job at Dunkin' Donuts down the street. It was a wild experience as a 15-year-old, but also I just immediately fell in love with it. Like the rush, like during a rush and like getting that completed, you know, like all of the work that you put in to getting something done and being really proud of the product that you built, and just being on a team with people and working together to like achieve that goal. The service part of it, like I love serving people. We went to Chick-fil-A. That was wild. That Chick-fil-A was the like last stop on 544 into Myrtle Beach. So it is on Saturdays when everyone's checking in, like line to the highway, out on the highway. It was absolutely insane. And then I went to Starbucks after that. So big corporate arc. And we moved to go Johnson & Wales. My husband was also like finishing his master's, so it worked out where he can go to UNCC. But yeah, I went to Johnson & Wales for baking and pastry. When we moved here, I was at Starbucks. I went to Amelie's while I was in school, so I worked there for a while as a barista actually. And then I did my internship at Blackberry Farm in Tennessee. I know, it was really cool. I think most food people should at some point work in a hotel or a resort because it's very special and unique and just a different experience than what you get outside of it. But I think it's so helpful in like really framing yourself and like, how do I serve people really well? I started working at La Piccola Gabbia, which was in 7th Street Market. It was a very small bakery, owned by Gabbia. She was the sweetest. I feel like that was where I got most of my like true baking experience, because school is one thing where you like learn something in a 9-week or like literally 9-day class, but you don't really learn it. And so you have to then go to your job and like truly like do it over and over again and learn what you're doing. So yeah, and it was great. She just let me kind of have like fun with the menu and doing different things and trying and stretching ourselves. And then after that closed, I transitioned to Not Just Coffee and worked with them before COVID and then during and a little bit afterwards. During like the COVID era, the cakes of Instagram kind of became a thing where people were selling the cakes that they made on Instagram, but they were doing really weird things like putting fig leaf powder and bay leaf in their buttercreams. And I was like, that's not what I thought cakes were, but that's what I want them to be. Like cool and creative and really like a work of art and not just like someone's customized, you know, we don't do character cakes, not because I don't think that they're great. Like it's just not what I like to do because I love the art part of it. I like that each cake you get is a little different. It's unique to you. I'm thinking about the person and the party and what we're getting from our, you know, vendors, like what florals we can have, what fruits and vegetables are available. So it's like very customized, but it started that because it was easy to just like throw a cake on Instagram and try and sell it. And it took off way more than I thought it was going to. And eventually when I left my job because I needed to do that more full time. And so, yeah, that's how we started. We have 6 wholesale accounts. I think 6, 6 or 7. We do Not Just Coffee on Providence Road. We have Summit and Ballantyne. We do Sorella Coffee in Monroe, which is a bit of a hike, but a wonderful client for us. We love them. They have such a cool concept out there. We do Rosie's over the weekends, and then Crane Coffee in Uptown during the weekdays. I feel like almost like warmth is like the feeling I want. I think I try to like have that in the way we like brand identity and the way our pictures look. Because I feel like a croissant fresh out of the oven is just so cozy. It makes you feel so like just like you just want to curl up with a nice little blanket. And I feel like that cozy feeling we can give customers as well by being really kind and creating a space where they're welcomed and they have a good laugh and enjoy our like interactions. And feel like we're taking care of them, like being able to care for them by giving them pastries. I think that one of the best experiences I've had with Wheatberry, like what we're doing now, is we had a baby shower. We made a cake for them, a special order, vegan and gluten-free. They loved it and emailed me and told me they loved it. I was like, that's wonderful. A year later, in a couple months, we make the first birthday cake for the same baby. And something about that I think is just so, like, to be a part of someone's life and their story. And like, I think that's a big part of why I love food and its ability to like bring people together and connect us all. It's like you come in, you know, every week to grab a croissant on the light rail with your friend to connect, but then you also come for your birthday cake and then their birthday cake and then your Thanksgiving order. It's like you get to be a part of people's lives in like such an intimate way in different ways. So it's just a fun connection point. Something about like making someone's day, it's just the best feeling. I feel like especially Chick-fil-A helped teach me this just because it's kind of the way they structure their business. But like being able to step in and say, okay, this person, like we may mess with their order, but like I'm going to be able to help them out and like take care of them and really make them feel connected. So they're going to come back, even though the mess up was bad, like they love it even more because of the service that you gave them. So yeah, I just love being able to watch, like when people like eat the food that I give them and that reaction that you see, it's just like, that's the best feeling. We change our menu really often, which I kind of love that about like being able to work with the seasons. Like, you can't just like throw a blueberry muffin on the menu and keep it on there year round. Like you have to force yourself to like test things and experiment and try to work with stuff that's like kind of weird and maybe you're not familiar with it or the customer's not familiar with it, but how do you like connect them to it? We're always trying to like mess around with something different, I feel like all the time. Pop-Pots were definitely the first. I love them. I don't think I'd heard about them before y'all posted about them. And I ordered a little bit and I was like, this is the best thing I've ever tried in my entire life. And I'm now obsessed. I love the citrus that you guys get during the like cold months. I think it's always fun because there's nothing else around for bakers. Like there's no fruits and that's what people want. So being able to play around with different citrus that have different flavor profiles and different like, you know, green and yellows and oranges and being able to pull that into baking is always fun. The blackberries are always my favorite thing that you have though. Those Bush & Vine blackberries are just, during June when they're like chunky, like just big plump, they're the best. I think I eat a whole like carton as I'm driving it back to the kitchen. It would be really hard, especially how small we are, to go to all these people and try to build partnerships and relationships. Like it's just not feasible a lot of times for them to add a stop or delivery, you know, because they're doing big things and they have lots of stuff that they're doing. I can't always go to a farmer's market and pick up if they're only on the weekends. You know, if it's just Saturday, my production is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for Saturday. So I need the ingredients sooner. So it's always helpful to have them on hand to work with. Yeah, it just makes life simple. It's changed a lot since we got here. I think it's been fun to watch it grow. That's part of the reason we stayed. I feel like we came here to go to school. It wasn't necessarily that we were going to stay here. Like we built a wonderful community and that was a huge part of it, but also seeing the growth potential for Charlotte was really exciting, and the ability to be part of something and be part of building something was really exciting. I feel like over the past couple of years I think there's still a lot of space to grow. Charlotte tends to be a couple years behind where like the food scene is elsewhere. But there's been some really exciting diversity that's come into the Charlotte food scene. Like a place like Yunta where you're eating Japanese, Peruvian food, you know, like it feels like it should be in New York when you're there. It's such a wild concept for most people who don't have any experience with it. And it's not a steakhouse, which is what Charlotte kind of part of its identity always was. So seeing places like that, the success of like Elf and Neno, I love Kimmy so much and she's great, but seeing her be able to come and like bring her food to Charlotte and people are so excited by it and so receptive of it. It's been fun to see like those businesses start to like pop up and really people get behind them. Yeah, I feel like there needs the growth of like, you know, diversity in small people, like people taking concepts and just having fun with them and being able to get into spaces where they can be creative. Because I feel like sometimes we struggle with these like mega spaces where really only big corporate companies can come in and take over those leases. So people being able to do small concepts throughout the city. I feel like Charlotte has a lot of room for the baking scene to like explode. There are over the past couple of years more and more bakers, but there's not a lot, especially when you look, I mean, if you look at the big cities, it's nothing compared to them, but even in some of the Southeast, you don't really see some of the establishments that you see around us. So there's definitely space for like bakeries to come in, and I think we have a lot of niche products in that market, but also just like places where you can come and get kind of anything, you know? You can get your bread, you can get your pastry, you can get your cake, like you can kind of get all those things in one space. I think you try a bunch of things and you fail really hard at some of them, but some of them really work and you continue on with them. I think that's been like the biggest learning curve, is not everything is going to work out the way you want it to, but you have to be okay with that and you have to kind of pivot, right? Like I was not expecting cakes to become such a big part of my brand and my identity, but it did, and that's wonderful, and it's now part of it. Like you take those things on when you get them. Yeah, I feel like meeting people where they are has been really big. We saw the most success when we were able to be stable in one farmer's market every single weekend because people knew where we were. They could come find us. They didn't have to like try and find us on Instagram and pull up a schedule, all those things. Like that became really confusing. So being able to kind of have a steady presence somewhere was really helpful. And yeah, I just think taking advantage of opportunities when they come up, like they don't always work out. I think that's okay. Like it can be kind of hard and it feels bad when you have to say no. But they've always been like a learning experience and helped us grow and helped us develop better connections to places. And as long as you handle it with like dignity and grace, like there's usually no hard feelings. If it's like, oh, we did something together with somebody, it's not working out, it's time to move on. Sometimes I feel like, especially as a woman in baking, it tends to be viewed as a cute hobby. Like that is kind of the perception, because it is a lot of times for most people a hobby. And obviously there's like a little bit of a stigma with the woman in a kitchen kind of thing. And so a lot of times I've felt this wall of like not being taken seriously as a business owner, right? Like, oh, it's just this fun side project. I'm like, it's not fun. Sometimes it can be very, very hard, but I own a business and I'm not just like doing this on the side. I feel like, especially for women in the industry, it's like a very common thing we have to kind of push up against, where it's like, without, you know, there's ways of doing it that could be very nice and like kind, but I'm trying to say like, I am owning a business. I'm a business owner. You know, I'm doing hard things. I'm managing my books. I'm dealing with clients. I'm dealing with vendors. Like I'm doing all those things. Like I own a business, which is a great thing. Like we need more women in business. I think a lot of times having to hit that wall over and over again where people just say, oh, it's cute, or oh, what a fun hobby, like that can really get to you. So you gotta kind of push past it as you continue on. We all have imposter syndrome and think that we're not good enough and we're not doing a great enough job and shed tears over things that happen. Everyone is doing that. Everyone feels it. Like you're not alone in feeling that. I think so often it can be very isolating, but I think kind of holding on to the fact that everyone kind of feels the same way. So I just have to keep pushing, because that's what everyone before me did. All we did was push. We just kept going, because everyone's going to want to define you, especially in the very beginning. Your employees are going to want to do that. Your like customers, the people around you, the businesses around you are going to try to put titles on you. Like push and say what you want to do and say what you want to be and be confident in that. Like if there's a space in Charlotte for it, it's gonna happen. Like that will come to you and people will find you. But you just have to kind of stand firm in your identity and like why you're doing the thing that you're doing. Yeah, I think the reason that we're so inspired, like I think that I take the European, more like that kind of modern, what you see like in modern European bakeries, is this space for a neighborhood that's situated in its place, that's servicing its customers really well and taking care of their needs. Like they need a baguette for the charcuterie board they're making, or they need to come grab a couple croissants and a coffee with a friend. They need a cake for this birthday party that they're celebrating their like best friend with. Like those spaces are really magical. Once you walk into them, even if you're not from that area, like you feel the magic behind it. And I really want to capture that and continue to provide that to Charlotte. So I think we can really use some more like neighborhood focused places that people just come to be like welcome and feel like it's part of their home, you know, like an extension of themselves, right?